What's up, YouTube? KS Gun Guy here. Thanks for joining me today, as always. If you like what you see here, do be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and there's plenty more content on the way. So I'm really excited to show you a very special firearm today. Now, this is not my firearm. This is actually a loaner from a good buddy of mine, Austin. Thanks for the loaner, man. Appreciate you. So something very special and certainly the most custom and probably the most expensive firearm you may end up seeing on this channel for sure. Now, when we talk about the world of 1911s, there are so many different options, and they range in price anywhere from the $400 or $500 up into the many thousands of firearms. And this is one of those firearms. This is actually a NightHawk custom GRP right here. And before we go any further, of course, just to let you know, it is unloaded. Of course, I do have an unloaded magazine in here as usual, but I'm excited to show this to you, and really I was just excited to get my hands on this and take it to the range and put a few rounds through it. I put about 150 or so through it, just to give it a try and see what it was like. I've never shot a real high-end 1911. I mean, I've shot a Springfield TRP a couple of times, which I consider a fantastic firearm for sure. But it was really fun just to experience this, and I'm excited to talk with you guys a little bit about it. So let's go ahead and knock a couple of specs out of the way. They're going to fall right in line with most 1911s out there. So the overall length on the firearm is 8.65 inches. The height is 5.4 inches. The width on this, I'm going to give you two specs on this. The slide width is 0.92 inches, so just under an inch on that slide, which is great. And then the overall width, counting everything, including your safety, is going to be 1.4 inches. Now the barrel on this is a 5-inch barrel, again, very standard for 1911s. The overall weight in this unloaded is 36.9 ounces, so it almost seems like it's just an ounce or two lighter than some 1911s. It does come with some really cool G10 grips. This actually has the NightHawk logo on it. These are standard grips with it, but they feel great. Great texture, and of course I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. Now the finish on the barrel is going to be a black nitride finish. And then the magazine capacity for this is 8+1 here, and it comes with several of the NightHawk custom magazines, which is great, but it also accepts any normal 1911 magazine. So if you've got a stash of magazines, this will do just fine with that. So some really nice features about this firearm and some things that kind of elevate it to that custom status for sure. So again, I was talking about those grips here a little bit, these G10 grips. I gotta tell you, I mean, the texture on these, it seems relatively subdued. They're just kind of almost a notch sort of texturing on it, but it actually feels really fantastic in the hand. It doesn't peach up, it's not overly aggressive, but there is certainly plenty of grip in there to be able to really hold on to that gun. Now the back strap does have fantastic checkering on it as well, as does the front strap, and these, I mean, the checkering is absolutely amazing. So you really do get a very good purchase on the firearm. Now for 1911s on the back straps, I actually do prefer the back strap with a little bit more meat on it, so not your flat back strap or mainspring housing, but it still does just fine. Now it does have, of course, your standard beaver safety or grip safety on it, and this is kind of that combat grip safety. So it really molds into your hand as you grab the firearm and actuates that safety for you. And there's plenty of a beaver tail, of course, to be able to protect your hand and really get a good high purchase on it. And then you've got your normal magazine release. Now it is very textured on it as well, so you do get a really nice positive magazine release on it. As far as the trigger goes, it is a skeletonized trigger, and it is adjustable for over travel, which is really nice. So they've really done a good job of kind of throwing the kitchen sink at this gun, and with an MSRP of around $3,000, I would expect them to do that. So good on NightHawk. Now you'll notice that this does have an accessory rail for lights, lasers, grenade launchers, and you can order this with or without the accessory rail. So you do have some choices there, and that's one of the nice things about a custom shop 1911. You do get to kind of pick and choose some of the features that go along with your firearm, which is great. So you do have, of course, a 1911 safety, although it is not ambidextrous out of the box. I believe you could probably order an ambidextrous safety if you wanted to, or, of course, you could put your own on after the fact if you wanted to. Although with a custom firearm, you really want it out of the box exactly the way you want it. Now, as we move up into the slide, several things going on here. Now, this does have forward and back serrations on it to really get that slide moving any way you want, or if you want to do any press checks or anything like that. And as far as that slide moving, and I know you're really not going to be able to tell this on camera, but I got to say, man, you know, if you've experienced a variety of different 1911s, you'll notice that that how that action works can either be very smooth or it can be a little bit rough in there, depending on how the gun is finished. And with custom 1911s, when they're hand finished and hand worked really from beginning to end, in some cases like the NightHawk Custom, they really take the extra time to make sure that everything, all the tolerances, all the fit and finishes are really top notch. And in this case, they definitely did that. So this slide really is just, it's glass. It absolutely is glass. And unfortunately, with my hands wrapped around a camera, it's a little bit, it's hard for me to really show you guys just how smooth it is. But I assure you, it is incredibly smooth. But the nice thing is, and I know there are some high-end 1911s that the tolerances are so tight, it's almost difficult to, A, take the gun apart, which this one isn't. It's relatively easy. But then also to move the slide, I mean, it takes a lot of effort. In this case, it doesn't. And this gun only has around maybe 500 or 600 rounds through it. So it's not overly broken in, but it still works really, really well. So as far as the hammer goes, it is skeletonized, and it is very skeletonized. So they've really reduced a lot of that weight in there, which is really nice. So between the skeletonized trigger and hammer, they've really put on top-notch features as far as that goes. Now, of course, you do have your GRP on here. This is Global Response Pistol. That's what that stands for. I don't know how many units are actually carrying a NightHawk Custom per se, but it is kind of cool that they have this this moniker on here, and I think it looks really sharp. It's subdued enough to where it doesn't take away from the firearm itself. And of course, it says NightHawk Custom with the emblem on the other side. And again, I think it's very tasteful. It's not overly done or anything like that. Now, as far as the sights go, these are kind of interesting sights here. These are actually Heine rear sights, and these are black serrated sights here, and there's actually a little tritium vial right in the back of it. Hopefully you can see that okay. And then on the front, it is a tritium post. So these are night sight ready, which is good, but I found them to be just fine on the range, and I actually quite liked this this Heine rear. I thought it was really nice. And it was good that that tritium vial doesn't really take away from the shooting at all. And if you've been watching my channel, you know the style of shooting that I do is much more defensive shooting than bullseye shooting or accuracy shooting. And for my faster style of shooting, it still works really well. I was able to pick up the sight without too much of an issue whatsoever. A couple of other quick things. I'm going to point the gun at you. We've already seen that it's unloaded. We'll just point it at you for a moment or two, just so you can get an idea of the barrel bushing there, and I think it's really nice. There are only a couple of accents on here that are silver or steel in this case, and I think it's a really sharp looking gun. Basically all black, with just a couple of silver accents on it, which is really nice. So just a really fantastic firearm, a really interesting looking firearm, and I got to tell you, it's an incredible shooter. I'll be wheeling in shooting, and probably have been up to this point, just so you can kind of see. This is not really a deep dive into the firearm so much, but just kind of a cool look at a beautiful high-end 1911. So let's go ahead and take a look at a little bit of shooting and see how this guy does. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that footage at the range. So at the end of the day, from a shooting perspective, this really just is a fantastic shooter. I know that when people test firearms like this, they'll put it in a bench rest, which I did not, but they'll put it at a bench rest and test it at 25 yards, and oftentimes they'll get groups as tight as 1 inch, which is just remarkable for a handgun as far as I'm concerned. But this type of gun is definitely capable of that. Now, for my type of shooting, from a defensive shooting standpoint, this did extraordinarily well. It made me look better than I probably should have. So it was exciting to do that. Now, I was testing another gun that I'll be wheeling on the channel at a later time, which I'm excited to show you. Ironically, a striker-fired gun, I just didn't shoot very well compared to this. I was a little bit surprised because I spend more time with striker-fired firearms. But it really was a lot of fun to get behind this and put a few rounds down range for sure, because it's a top quality build type of 1911, and anytime you have an opportunity to shoot a high-end firearm, I highly recommend it for sure, even if it's not something you necessarily can put in your collection. I know I can't, but it really is a lot of fun to do for sure. So just wanted to bring you a kind of a quick look at a beautiful firearm, beautiful 1911 NightHawk Custom GRP. Again, MSRP around the $3,000 mark, so certainly a pretty expensive firearm. But again, the fit and finish and the features that you get on a firearm like this definitely make it worth that $3,000 as far as I'm concerned, if you have the opportunity to do it and you're into that sort of thing, because it really is absolutely fantastic. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to say about the NightHawk Custom, just a beautiful firearm, and share your stories about different firearms that you've got, especially if you've got any sort of custom or kind of higher end firearms. I'm excited to hear about that for sure. So once again, do be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Looking forward to those comments, and I will see you next time. Thanks.